Hey, Adam.
What's up?
I'm stuck behind this logo. Looks like you are too.
Yeah, I'm back here too. With no nose or mouth.
Just no sense of smell or taste, this is not a good time to have either one of those. But
Well, at least we have our sense of corniness intact.
we do. What's up, everybody? We're not coming out until you guys hit the comments. Let us know where you are and beg for us to come from behind this logo.
Come
I'm
on.
just kidding.
Come on.
No, but greetings from Serbia. What's up, Vladimir? We just want to check and see if you can hear us. Today I will be playing the part of the Fender Rhodes. Is that correct?
Yeah, I will be playing the part of the piano. I think this is a Steinway.
Is it though? Because it looks like a flying.
Shh. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, sorry. What's up, baby? What's up, Procreation? Who is Procreation Sound? I think we know who that is, but
Yeah,
IRL.
new Open Studio member. Yeah, what's your real name, Procreation Sound?
I can't see you. That's right.
That's the
part
point,
of our,
Raphael.
We're trying to see if we can get better ratings if we're unseen.
We are soft but clear. Okay, so we're a little
but
soft.
clear. All right, we're
so
gonna go a little
yeah,
louder.
yeah.
Here we go. Go on. How's that? We're louder. Should I go one
Yo,
more?
yo.
We're going one more. Okay, this is gonna be our new thing. We're gonna kind of hang out back as we are here. Okay, we've gone louder, so if you would let us know what you think of that, because we are self-produced here. Okay, once we get the sound right, we're gonna let you see us, and we have one little change, and we're gonna see who. Once we go to video, we're gonna see who can notice what changed. So get ready now. One thing changed from last week. Is that right, Adam? Adam is our director.
One significant change from the set, and the first person who gets it will get our approval. That's it. That's all we can afford right now.
Okay. They're saying it's still soft. Sounds good. Loud enough. Okay, we did get louder, so we were good. Down in West Tech. What's up, Ian? In West Texas. I hit my easy 5 this morning. Wasn't totally easy, but I hit it. It's all good.
Vocals are a little low. Well,
it's a little low.
you know, what are you gonna do?
That's why you got a volume.
Hey.
That's why you got a volume on your. Are you compressing? We don't know. What does that mean?
Yeah, we're compressing.
I don't think we're compressing.
Got my compression socks on.
Man, this is fun. This is like a radio show.
I know.
Like with just the logo up there.
I know. It
It's like
looks
a
way better
podcast.
than actually seeing us, I think.
We are not compressing, but you might be compressing on that side, though, Adam. I don't know.
I'm trying not to.
Trying
Is
not
that something we should be doing?
No, they're
All right, I'm compressing now.
they're saying, "Are you compressing?"
I am compressing. Yeah.
Okay, mix is good. It's so hard when somebody's like, "Mix is perfect." Others like, "Too low." Is it compress? Compression, yo. What's up, Jesse? All right, so we want you to drop in the comments the first person that can notice as soon as we go visual here.
Hey.
The difference from last week. I'll give you a hint. It's not like Adam's haircut, and it damn sure ain't my haircut. It's got nothing to do with us personally. Like our clothes. Yes, we're wearing different clothes, but there's something with the set design. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. Look, I'm just going to tease it a little bit. Boom. Bam.
Oh.
Was that enough? Was that enough?
That's good.
It is, Raphael, it is not too early to ask a question. In fact, please
Yeah.
ask questions, because this is our Q&A Monday. You know how we do it.
Yeah, we need questions. If there's no questions, we just do stuff like this for the rest of the show.
This is horrible. This is like just the worst. All right, should we go visual now?
Let's do it.
Okay. There we are. Okay. So what is that? Hey, how you doing?
Hi, how's it going?
I'm still amazed we can hear each other through this. I don't know do folks know about this? That is a giant sneeze guard.
Oh, everybody's getting the difference like out the gate.
Oh, purple
Yeah,
background.
there's
instead of blue. Very
there's
good.
not even
Okay. I don't
a
think I would
delay.
have noticed.
Yeah, it would just happen pretty much instantaneously.
I thought someone was gonna be like, "Oh, but Christian was here and Sean were with us last week." I mean, if we can't have them physically in the studio, I feel so much better about them being right here.
It is
Super
nice.
excited.
It gives off a great vibe.
It does. It does.
What's going on with you?
Nothing much. What's happening, everybody? Welcome. This is my friend Adam Maness right there.
What's up?
My name is Peter Martin. Hey. And this is the You'll Hear It podcast on YouTube, which is super confusing because a podcast is on your iPod. No, nobody has an iPod anymore, right? No, but we do want to invite you, those of you, I know some of you are like YouTube only people, but if you're into and on podcasts in general, we are back to 5 days a week. And I don't know if you know our friend Joe down at H-Town kind of said he wasn't willing. He wants to see a couple weeks before he fully gives it up to us. But he did say thank you.
Oh, we got it.
But it was a qualified thank you.
Joe, we got it. Don't even worry about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
But we invite you to check our podcast out. We're audio only, and we try to keep things very fresh. In fact, right after this, we're going to record a bunch of episodes that'll be up for the rest of the week.
Yep.
And it comes out at 3 a.m. But you can listen to that at any time. It's not a live situation.
Yeah. And, this will be part of the podcast, too, I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, if it's as brilliant as I'm thinking it's going to be. So we invite you guys to ask questions, to make comments, and we are here to serve. And super excited, man. I love starting the week out with this. It's just getting some information out. This always gives me ideas of things to practice, and the questions that folks have, and just kind of keeps us connected with music, and developing. It's all about getting better each day, even if it's just a little bit sometimes.
Agreed. So, yeah, ask us your question. Just leave it right here in the chat, and we'll get it going. Let's see what we have already. What's up, everybody? There's a lot of good folks on here. Oh, it's Christian is Procreation Sound. We had a nice email exchange. How you doing, Christian? Welcome to the Open Studio
Is
family.
that Christian McBride by any chance?
No, that is.
No, I know that is, but Christian McBride may be hiding under a pseudonym, as we would say. Oh, little news in the Open Studio world. I don't know. Do we have any bass players on here that were at our first ever bass boost boot camp last Saturday? Do you know about this, Adam?
I do. I attended.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I was unable to attend
due
to a previous.
Awesome. It was awesome. Yeah. McBride himself showed up.
That's what I heard. Yeah,
that was pretty great.
Which was kind of a surprise and a nice, fun thing. But yeah, we just started this 4-week boot camp with Bob DeBoo, who's our newest bass guru, our first ever bass guru. I mean, of course, McBride and Christian McBride and Ruben Rogers, who have courses, but Bob is doing the GPS and the boot camp for McBride's course and doing some wonderful things. So that was fun over the weekend. Well, I thought it was fun. You're in another place. It's all good. You okay there, buddy?
Sorry, I'm making sure. I'm trying to get the questions in order. Colleen says, "Where were you this morning for the DGPS, Adam?" I was at the DGPS, Colleen. It was in the same place as always.
You look panicked there for a minute.
Yeah, I was like, "Wait, did I do the DGPS?" Yeah.
So, a little news on that. I don't know if you know about this, and some folks may not know about DGPS. That's the daily guided practice session that Adam does 5 days a week with a select small group of folks that are Piano Access Pass members.
Yeah, that's right.
And you take them through
it's a great group, by the way.
You take them through certain units that are they based on number of weeks or a month, or is it kind of just when the concept's finished?
So the way we have it structured now is we kind of have a theme for the month. Like for September, we've been dealing with bebop, right? Mm-hmm. Just bebop because, I've been making this course, bebop enclosures for beginners, and wanted to work through some of those concepts. And we've just kind of had themes of the month, and it's really great because you get to explore the theme through like a lot of different variations. So we've done Groove and High and Scrapple from the Apple. Today we started Donna Lee, talk about voicings, enclosures, language, the melody, and then within that we work on very pianistic, technical things, playing with the left hand, chop stuff, and then ultimately like the daily practice of just getting the music that's inside of us out and clearing that path, to get the sounds that are us to the instrument. So yeah, it's a great group, and I think we're going to expand it. Am I right?
Yes, and that's what I was just going to mention. We're not quite ready to announce it because we're still sort of forming the total experience, but it's going to be kind of a Open Studio Piano Mastermind situation. We don't have the final name for it, but it's going to be really cool, and it's really going to sort of spring forth from what you're doing with the daily guided practice session, along with some other extras like the Fred Hirsch Masterclass, which we would be remiss if we didn't mention that.
Yeah.
But that's going to be first of our Masterclass series. And just some other things. It's basically going to be a quite an immersive piano experience, both with the pre-recorded courses, some assignments, and then some live situations, taking advantage of some masters like yourself during this time when you have a little bit more availability. Fred Hirsch, Jeff Keyser, a number of different folks, myself, and we're really excited about it. But I would just say if you want to try to finagle your way into the daily guided practice session now, you should probably do that, because we're going to sort of grandfather in anybody who you approve, because you're gonna have to apply for this, because we really, it's not even about level, it's about kind of commitment, and we're not trying to scare anyone, but it's just you're gonna have to apply for this program because we only want folks in there that are serious about getting better. You can be at a number of different levels, and we're gonna be real clear about that.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna be is for folks that are just like, oh, I want to jump in once every other month and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is for people who really want to, get better and commit to being part of a very exclusive kind of small community within a larger community.
Yeah, and
like when the Mean Girls would sit at the one table when they were in high school and the other, and they'd be like, "Get away from us!" It's gonna be like that. That's what the Piano Mastermind group is.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to just getting even more out of it. One thing we've discovered, a little silver lining to the cloud of the global pandemic, has been. We have all these great video courses on Open Studio, but like, how can we be even more connected?
Right.
In this time where we have more time than we need, but we don't have as much connection. How can we do that? And we've really, I think, hit upon something with this, that we can use these pre-recorded resources, the courses that we have.
Yes.
And then, get a live feeling with me to our students already, and then the stuff like you were saying, Fred Hirsch. We have our office hours that we just had last week that we
which is going to be part of the Mastermind.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, I don't want to scare anyone in terms of like, there's always going to be an option. Well, I don't know about always, but usually there will be an option to watch at a different time. So the live events, once you're a member of this exclusive situation, you can watch it later in the day or the next day or whatever, because we know folks are in different time zones and are working at different times and that kind of thing. But it's going to be something that I think the benefit for us all will be, very much along the same lines, Adam, as you've done with the daily guided practice session, is kind of moving along and progressing and learning from each other, learning from the teacher, and just that feeling of community, which is something that we're so excited about here.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into some podcasting, shall we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're going to try something new. We realized, like, why were we even doing, like, the whole intro thing? Because, that's, like, whatever. But we want to simulate that. And plus, I've got a different computer here, and I actually, to be honest, don't know how to. Although I do have the video, so we could play the theme song while I triggered. Maybe. Oh. Could you vamp for a second, big guy?
Yeah. Sure, I can vamp.
Okay. I'm in vamp verbally, but yeah, you can do that too.
Steinway has a wolf.
Just as the real ones do. They should have like some bad tines on it.
Yeah, exactly. Tines that don't. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was setting you up for that.
I'm Adam Maness.
And I'm Peter
And
Martin.
you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Daily music advice coming at you.
Coming at you today. We are sponsored by Open Studio. As always, we are live on YouTube. If you're listening to this on our audio podcast, join us on Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern on the Open Studio YouTube channel. And check it out, because we're answering questions and we're having a really good time. We're playing some music.
Yeah.
And
we're welcoming in the week.
We're trying.
We're saying week, come on in. I know some people think Monday is the second day of the week. I'm more of the week starts on Monday.
We talked about this last week a little bit.
Oh,
yeah.
really? Are we regurgitating the same material now?
The week 100% starts on Monday.
Yeah.
Easily, yeah.
I figured out how to program my watch to even say that too, because they kept telling me like my mileage for this week was starting on Sunday. I'm don't box me in, Garmin. Come on. Big shout out to Garmin, sponsor.
So what we like
not a sponsor.
What we like to do here on YouTube is answer your questions. We like to take your questions. We've had a variety of ways to take questions over the hundreds of episodes of the You'll Hear It podcast that we've had.
And just to be clear, we've always been very nebulous about the best way to get them to us, which has caused endless confusion. So I think the live situation is the ultimate level.
We don't really want you to answer to ask us questions.
No, of course we do.
Yeah,
we just get confused. We're like, too many channels.
So, but please come and join us on YouTube. No,
we're confusing them again.
I know, it's half-assed.
No, but you know what? I don't have my email in front of me, but we had some good emails recently, and that's always a nice way. If you want to send it in advance to YHI@openstudiojazz.com. But the best thing right now is just drop them in the comments.
So we have some questions already. So one from Vladimir. What's up, Vladimir? Can I have taste advice? Yeah, totally. We can talk about that. Tenderly, 3/4 or 4/4. So Vladimir, when you're cooking a steak and you want it nice and tender, what you want to do is not cook it 3/4 of the way through, or even full 4/4. No, I'm just kidding.
I was wondering how long you were going to keep.
I know.
That was 10 seconds longer than I was hoping.
It was 10 seconds longer than it was funny.
That was pretty good. I'm laughing.
So yeah, I don't know. I would not play Tenderly in 3. I don't think. Do you play it in 3?
No, first time I ever have.
I only know it in 4. I mean, you can do anything in 3.
Yeah.
But
You know what? Maybe it's originally in 3. It could be. I don't think so though.
that'd be strange. I'm gonna look it up, Vladimir. So yeah. So the answer to your question for us is
It kind of
4.
works. Yeah.
But I think you've just converted Peter Martin.
No, I mean, I love it in 4. You know what, too? I like it in... Is E flat the original key? I just sort of jumped into that. I'm not sure if that's correct, though. I'm thinking D flat. Tenderly.
Let's hear Rosemary Clooney.
On to...
Hard to discover new audiences?
Come on.
Come on.
It's time to
Try the
Dude.
premium. Come on. Auntie, fun fact, Auntie to
Oh,
George
boy.
Clooney.
Oh boy.
My favorite director. About to get kicked off.
Oh yeah. We should.
No, we're probably cool.
The evening breeze caressed the trees tenderly.
In 3.
Now watch, we're gonna go check every recording is gonna be in 3. Like we somehow missed that.
Oh.
Okay, great. Who was that asked that?
Vladimir.
Okay. Bill Evans, I think, does it in 3/4. See, I'm telling you, we're gonna get just exposed for our ignorance.
Is that a
right
St. Louis thing, maybe?
now.
Actually, I'd never play this tune, so I don't know.
I love playing it. I've never thought about it in anything but 3/4. Of course.
It's amazing.
It's the French way, Amy says. Ah, c'est la vie. Le tenderly.
Le tenderly.
Le tenderly. Vladimir says yes. So, I don't know. How do we answer this? Either, right?
Yeah. I mean, Vladimir's from Serbia.
Oh, man.
My
love
wife is
Serbia.
a quarter Serbian.
I got to tell you, I had such a... Maybe we should do show and tell sometime here at the You'll Hear podcast when we're doing the video Mondays because, man, I have some beautiful pictures from being in Serbia. I've been there a couple times, but I was there last, December or November. Some beautiful pictures along the river there I took when I was going for a run.
I've never been, but, because my wife's Serbian heritage, my kids are Serbian. And so
Right,
have
that's right.
Serbian
Yeah.
heritage, and so we want to take them at some point.
And there's a
It'll be
little
fun.
Serbian and Bosnian connection here in St. Louis.
For sure.
A lot of
Yeah.
folks don't know about that.
Oh, man, the Serbian festival here in St. Louis is such good food.
Yeah.
Just FYI for our St. Louis folks watching, in case you're interested.
Oh, Amy was saying, yeah, French is Monday. That was she wouldn't even talk about tenderly. Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll believe anything. Try 5/4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's still 4.
3, 4, 5.
There you go.
2, 3, 1, 2.
Sounds really good.
No, it doesn't.
Sounds fine to me,
But it
man.
works. All right. Well, we nailed that question.
Are you
Let's
playing
move
in
on to
E
our-
flat? Shouldn't it be E? I'm just kidding. I'm
No,
just
that,
kidding.
but I was saying D flat. What do you play it in? Oh, you say you don't play it.
I've only seen
You
it.
hate this song.
I mean, no, I've played it before, but only called, at a gig, never on my own, and it's always an E flat.
It is E. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a recording that I maybe even learned it from was D flat,
Oh, sweet.
like a singer. Maybe maybe.
I've been working on, that tune, What'll I Do, Irving Berlin?
Oh,
D
yeah.
flat. That's a good D flat tune.
What'll I do?
Yeah.
Do-do-do-dee, do-do-do-dee.
This is from Ian. Question: just like you find these lists of essential jazz tunes to learn, are there any essential solos every jazz musician should internalize?
Which Ian is this? We amazingly have a couple of Ians on here.
Ian Saylor.
Ian Saylor.
Yeah.
Essential solos. Wait, repeat the question. I'm trying to look at it because I'm
So
such
it's
a
just up
visual
by
guy.
Vladimir's question. It says, just like you find these lists of essential jazz tunes to learn, right? Where you see like, 10 essential standards that every, person needs to learn before they move to Brooklyn.
Right.
What are those? Are there essential solos every jazz musician should internalize? I don't know if there's like a list. I know,
we should do that.
We've talked about it. Like we've talked about like solos to get you started, right?
Yeah.
Solos really get you in there. For us, we always go, especially for pianists, Wynton Kelly, Freddy Freeloader. It's such a singable solo. It's so easy to learn. I would say that, and we talked about this a little bit last week, like if you can go to even just the start of some solos like Bill Evans' Autumn Leaves from Portrait in Jazz, stuff like that. Bud Powell on Hallucinations or something like that. You can get a couple choruses in as a beginner. I would say that the ones that every jazz musician not should internalize, but that you hear jazz musicians talk about the most are Freddy Freeloader. I would say John Coltrane on Giant Steps.
Louis Armstrong, West End Blues.
West End Blues.
Now, and some of these, I would say, would almost be easier to come up with. Well, you could have like a top 10, just like West End Blues is like everyone. I mean, know it to be able to play it, that's a bonus, of course. But if you're a trumpet player, I mean, and you're like, oh, I'm a jazz trumpet player, and you don't know that solo, I would be a little bit like, not that you have to play in that style or whatever, but to me, that's kind of like I'm a classical musician, classical pianist, and I don't know the Bach conventions.
Right.
And not only do I not know them, I haven't even heard them or can't like kind of, fake my way through it or something.
Yeah. It's not a hard solo to hear.
No.
Like that is one that you could easily pick up.
It's fun.
It's
to hear.
super fun, and you learn a lot.
Yeah.
I would also say you could argue that, what was I just thinking of? Like a Miles solo, everybody kind of knows So What?
Yeah.
Right? Like the first, at least that first chorus, everybody can sing it. It's so singable.
So modal.
It's so modal, which we have another question about. That's a really good one.
Let's make a little mental note because I was thinking about a fun YouTube video could be like the top 10 greatest piano solos of all time, and you're not going to believe what number 11 is. Something like that.
But really, fun. I think the answer to Ian's question, are there essential solos every jazz musician should internalize? I mean, there are essential albums that every jazz musician kind of references, but I think it's different, man. I think it's whatever you're into, Every jazz musician I know.
Wait, now it sounds like we're contradicting ourselves.
No. As far as
we just got super dogmatic. We're like, these are the ones, and you're like, no.
No, I was saying those are the most common ones. But I think once you get past like Charlie Parker, Now's the Time, right? Like
once you get past the essential ones, which is what he's asking about.
Oh, then I'm
so
done.
The answer is yes.
No, yeah.
But what the problem was, we went beyond. He was just asking, is there essential lists? And I would say yes. Then we got into actually saying what we thought they were. That's the more difficult part.
Yeah. Maybe there is. I don't know. I think it's like but I feel like there shouldn't be. Just go with what you want, really.
Okay. So no to West End Blues. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
But when you were at the new school, for instance, see, because I didn't go to jazz school, but I did go to a very dogmatic classical school, and there was definitely essential lists of repertoire, not only for your instrument, but that you needed to know, just like classical appreciation, and maybe too much, and maybe too Eurocentric, I'm sure. But wasn't there like kind of a list of gotta know solos or tunes? Or
depending on what like track you were on or the class schedule you had. Yeah, sure. There was like,
was it depending on what Robert Glasper, you could hear him practicing in the next room?
Yeah, pretty much. No, I mean, just like anywhere else, it was like it had its own culture of what, different cliques of what people were into or whatever. But mostly it's like any, I remember when who I first studied with up there was Bruce Barth, who I love Bruce so much.
Yeah, Bruce.
And, he had me, he recommended a lot of Monk transcription for me. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. I forget which one it was now. Anyway, but
like Solo Monk or something? I know you used to talk about that.
No, I think it was like...
Scuba dee haw, scuba hey how.
Oh, man. I'm going to get called out here. I mean, I was 20 years old, but...
Cool. Well, I think we thoroughly confused that one, which is all good. Can we jump to another question?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold up. I had a good one here. Oh, this is from Devin. Adam, you look great.
Oh, thank you, Devin.
Okay. I don't
love
know
that
if that's more a statement than a question, but it's a good one.
It's a really great question. Class schedule you had. Yeah, sure. There was like...
Whoa. All right. Do you have another one, or you want me to pick the next question here? Here, Devin actually has a question beyond the statement. I started learning piano as an adult, and because where am I at? Okay, I started learning piano as an adult, and because of that, I'm missing the years spent on a sight reading foundation. Are there any good books for reading, or should I just start learning classical rep? So, it's hard to start learning classical repertoire if you can read okay. That's a different skill from sight reading, I think. To me, sight reading, and this might be a little controversial, so not only the jazz police, but the studio musician police might come, the classical musician police, my mother or father police may come down to the studio if they know how to get here.
Rose and Bill just knock on the door.
They may come down.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, but I would say that sight reading is not a skill that is important unless you, in a professional or personal situation, want or need to sight read. Now, by that I mean you certainly want to be able to read music, although to be a great jazz musician you do not have to read music at all.
That's true.
It's certainly useful and interesting, and you could certainly get yourself into situations where you'd professionally be at a disadvantage if you can't. But I know some very good musicians, quite a few in New Orleans I for some reason, but that can play incredibly. They can play by ear. They can play everything that and more than most people that can read music. So it's just a separate skill. But sight reading is separate then from just being able to read music too. Like that's the ability, and then especially we talk about as pianists, it's difficult because you've got two hands, you've got a lot of things that can, two clefs, two staves, as it were.
Yeah.
But my experience with this is that I've had a couple of times in my life where my sight reading was at a very high level, not the highest ever.
It's a muscle you can exercise.
It's a muscle, and I can tell you right now, it is not at a high level.
Mine neither.
But I think we're not necessarily using it. I know I'm not really using it. I could get it back. It would take some work.
Yeah.
But it's just if you're not doing, so the times when I could do it good is I was doing a bunch of like accompanying singers, classical stuff.
Yep.
Like when I was at Juilliard, it was required that you do that as part of your ensemble thing. So I just did it a lot. I was practicing it. I had some good kind of training and some techniques to do it, but I haven't found it to be the most useful thing. Although in the jazz world, I have gotten myself into situations where all of a sudden I had to read a little something.
Yep.
And although I'm not a great sight reader, I've done it enough that I'm confident that like, okay, I can do it. I can't sit down and do it like on a classical level, like an orchestral player. But if you're not playing in an orchestra and doing it all the time or practicing it all the time, you're not going to have it. Now, you could practice it, and I always say, like, you got to go to, if you want to practice sight reading, you got to go to stuff that you've never seen before. You can't keep picking up the same book of sonatinas because you know those already, and that's not sight reading. But I would think first, who is it? As Devin, that what are the reasons that you would want to be able to sight read? Because to be able to, and like you have a great course on this lead sheet breakdown, lead sheet basics, where you talk about how to take a lead sheet, and that's would you consider that sight reading?
Well, you can sight read a lead sheet, but most of the information that you're quote unquote sight reading is provided by you, right? So you just have the melody and the chord changes, and you can make whatever you want to make out of it. It could be, or it could be whatever you want to do. Now, if you're sight reading a full piano score, as pianists, it's the most difficult sight reading.
Yeah.
You have up to like 6 or 7 notes at a time, 2 different clefs we're simultaneously reading. Oftentimes, as pianists, we have another stave with whatever's going on that we're supporting, because we're usually accompanying in those situations, especially that you and I would have to sight read.
Right.
So we have to see what the violin's doing as well. And so there's just a lot of information to process. And like I said, and you were just talking about, it's just one of those things that you have to do. You have to get used to reading ahead of where you're playing. I think that is the one thing. Every time I have to go back, and I do a fair amount of sight reading because I'm lucky enough to get to play with some great classical musicians in like both that tango band, Cortango, that I play in, and in the 442s, or with those guys. We've done some of the Claude Bowling stuff on some concerts, and that was, I had to work on it. Yeah, not my favorite, but I had to work on it and sight read. You can't memorize the whole thing.
Right.
So you are reading a lot of it, and you just have to exercise that muscle of looking ahead, deciding how accurate you're going to be about what's about to happen, because you're never going to be 100% accurate when you're sight reading, right? You have to let that go. In fact, speaking of the new school, I took a great sight reading course, and oh man, I'm going to space on the guy's name, but he was a great Broadway pianist, like a really good accompanist, and played shows and was an awesome sight reader. I mean, really one of these people you could put pretty much anything in front of him and he could just like make it sound great. And he was like, I'm honestly playing about 85% of the notes on this page. You know, that's how I'm able to, I can see everything. You know, you get in these habits of you're looking ahead and you're seeing everything as one, but I'm making some decisions to like put some priority on the things that are important. Obviously the bass and the top, like the top and the bottom, right? Of whatever's going on are the most important, but you get big thick chords. Do the individual notes in there matter in a sight reading situation?
Right.
Not as much, you know, and that's the kind of thing that you just have to get used to and accept. If you try to go for perfection, like if you try to get every note perfect and disregard the rhythm, it's going to suck.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking like the Broadway guys can be really good, guys and gals, like rehearsal pianists and just keyboardists playing there are so good at doing this. That kind of skill of being able to take to pick the parts that you can play if you're not able to read everything, and to kind of be discerning as you go. And I remember I got a chance to work with the wonderful Simon Rattle, such a fantastic conductor, on a kind of a jazz project. You know, he's a huge jazz fan and like a real jazz nerd, and he hasn't done, I don't think he's done a lot of stuff, but he's very well versed in jazz and symphonic jazz, as it were. But I remember we were kind of going over some of the material beforehand, and he had the score. And, you know, it was a rhythm section. This was with Diane Reeves and full rhythm section, and then the orchestra, Berlin Philharmonic. And he's looking at the score, and we're like in his office kind of dressing room. And he's like, okay, well, because we were trying to figure out, we had to cut it down for TV or something a little shorter. And he sort of sat at the piano. He's like, if we do that part, and he started playing the arrangement.
Start reading the score.
He's sight reading the score, exactly.
Transposing the horns.
Transposing. Yes. But he's also like, he knows how to like skip, like he's playing it, and then he'll catch a little part that's important. And I knew these, actually it was my arrangement. I was like, and he's skipping other stuff that's not actually that important. You can't play the whole thing, but he's playing enough of it. He's able to kind of read the chords. And I was like, man, that is very, very high level. And that's kind of another thing.
Conductors are smart cookies.
Exactly.
I think it takes some major cognitive power to conduct an orchestra.
Some of the conductors are smart cookies.
Yeah. Some of them are very good looking.
All right, cool.
We have a good one up here. Could you guys share some tips? This is from Yao Ming. What's up, Yao Ming?
What's up, Yao?
Could you guys share some tips for memorizing the melody and changes of standards? Totally. So memorizing the melody and changes of standards is about, I think it's about listening more than anything. Yeah. You have to listen to the point where when you don't play it correctly, you notice, right? So you listen and you know the version that you love, and hopefully you're in an accurate-ish version from a reputable source, and you know it so well, and you know how the bass line moves, and you know how the chords should sound, and you know how the melody, the rhythm of the melody is, that if you go to play it and you play it wrong, you know it's wrong. Yeah. And then you can work it out. That is the best way. You know, we were talking about sight reading and why you would do it, but it's the same thing with like learning a tune. Go to the audio first. It is harder. It's gonna suck. Embrace the suck of it being a little bit harder, right? Because you're gonna get better. You're gonna be a better musician, and you don't need to read to do that.
Absolutely. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said, I didn't hear you say anything about memorizing. I know the question was memorizing, but I think that's the key. Is like let's think about it as learning, right? Learning, as opposed to memorizing. Because I mean, yeah, I guess you are memorizing, but the more you learn it away from the page, if you need to reference the page, no problem, but even if you're playing it from the page, you want to get your head out of that page as quickly as possible and be able to really, you know, hear what's going on and listen and be able to memorize it, I guess, or learn it. I don't know, what would be the difference between memorizing and learning?
No difference, I think. Yeah,
I just feel like when you say learning, it makes it more intuitive. It makes it more kind of an organic flow with it, maybe.
But here's the thing, though. If you learn it from the audio, how do you not memorize it? You have to memorize it. Like if you learn it, if you learn it by reading it,
the memorization's built in.
The memorization is built in, and that's why, and it locks in longer and stronger. It's way different than reading, which we're used to just using text and music notation is a form of text. You know, and you're used to using that and letting it go, right? But audio, when we learn it, we have to learn it. We have to memorize it in order to go back, right? You have to be able to play it in your mind's ear over and over again. So I think it's really, really crucial.
Yep. So, and then another thing, if you're on piano, or I mean, whether you're a pianist or not, you could go to piano. A thing for really learning a standard tune, because I think the question was specifically about standard, is like to take two essential elements, because that's, I mean, you can take one certainly and like learn, like, so if we did on Green Dolphin Street, just the melody, you certainly could learn it from that, but I think you can jump into two things as you're learning it. Would be the root movement, as it were, and the melody, and you want to learn it in the flow of the form and the groove, as opposed to just being totally devoid and then trying to hook that up. So even if you can play and you know all this, you want to do, because remember we're learning. So when you learn something, it's all about it's as much about what you can't actually hear as what you can hear. So when you leave the space and just say just the melody and the root whole notes, you're forcing your ears to hear all that inner harmony, to learn it without play it. It's kind of like if somebody teaches you something and they tell you everything. Okay, I'm going to tell you how to do this math problem. I'm going to tell you how to read this paragraph, as opposed to saying, okay, you read it. Or read it like leaving something, like you have to experience it. You have to have some sort of mystery. There has to be some kind of built-in grit for yourself, which is being able to fill things in, because that's the technique of being able to hear something and then improvise over it that we're going to need. And if you don't exercise that muscle as you're learning it, you're not really learning the tune. You can't play too much for yourself.
Yeah.
First of all, you don't really know it anyway, so you're probably going to be messing it up.
Yeah.
But you got to take your time and build up those things. And the easiest way I've ever found is just start with the melody and the root. That kind of restrictive practice can take you next level for really learning this music.
Can we get a little controversial for a second?
Please.
Okay, so, we're talking a lot about notation. We're talking a lot about learning by ear. And there was this controversial video from Adam Neely that came out a couple weeks ago. And it was about music.
Adam who?
Adam Neely. Ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Famous podcaster. No, just kidding. No, but it was about music theory and white supremacy. And I shared that video around because of that, but mostly, though, because we don't have a good way of relaying all of the information of the music we love, right? Black American music specifically, with Western notation.
Right.
It doesn't paint even the most abstractive picture of the whole scenario, right? It doesn't tell the whole story. It certainly doesn't tell the whole story in any kind of rich detail.
Yeah.
That only happens through the audio learning, through auditory learning, right? So I would say that you're learning a music that just cannot be communicated fully by the page,
right?
And it shouldn't. Like
oral or oral tradition.
It's an oral tradition, and the more you try to force that square peg into the round hole, the further away from the original intent you're going to get. So
now, would you say that some of our Eurocentric university and conservatory systems are trying to force that a little bit sometimes?
Well, so I run into it all the time. We have a lot of students here at Open Studio that are they just grew up in a classical system, right? And so they want to relate. How do I feel like Charlie Parker?
Right.
And they want to do it, and they want us to provide them, with it in Western notation standards.
Right.
And I think I've hit a wall with trying to make that happen without saying this just isn't possible with the system we have now. And I think that's a lot of the frustration that's happening is we have all this emphasis on certain types of music, and the types of music that resonate the most with most modern people of 20th century and onward have nothing to do with how we theorize the music, how we notate it. In my opinion, it's just not a good fit. It's just impractical and inefficient way to do it. So more and more I am really leaning on, you have to learn it, quote unquote, and I'm going to get dogmatic here, I can't believe I'm going to say this, the right way, and learn it by ear and learn it from the record. You know what I mean? You just have to. Yeah.
And I think too, you could, one thing so that people don't get if this is not binary. So I totally agree with what you're saying, Adam, and I'm a big proponent of that too. But you talk about Charlie Parker, you talk about Miles Davis, all the folks that we bring up all the time. Like most of those musicians, if not all of them, went through some of these same issues in a way, in that they generally, a lot of them kind of came up in a classical tradition or a band tradition, or learning things in kind of a Western Eurocentric way, reading music and stuff. So it's very possible to be steeped in that system. I know I was, for sure, just because I played a lot of classical music at a young age. Like, that's what I was really passionate about, and I mean, still am in a lot of ways. I'm just not doing it. So, but a lot of times folks start to think like, oh, if I'm thinking like a classical musician, I can't think like a jazz musician. And you can, as long as you don't try to take the rules from that. It's kind of like if you play basketball, but you like hockey and you want to learn to play hockey, you can do it. But you got to put some skates on. You're not going to have you're going to have a puck. Yeah, a few things are going to be similar, but but it's a different thing. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but you can't bring that same mentality over. Like, you can't bring the same clothes that you're playing basketball, because you're going to be chilly and you're going to get hurt.
Or the rules of the game are completely different. Just how you frame it matters. And
perhaps the athleticism that you might possess could be translated.
Sure. And there's nothing wrong with traditional Western notation for notating, music that can be really expressed very clearly with that kind of notation. And hey, look, maybe this is also just my limitation as a notator.
No, I don't think so. No, because you've done a great job of, like, in your arrangement. I mean, I've played your stuff, and many great musicians have, and you have a great way of explaining through the notation what music you want to have come out, which is what it's all about. But I think it's the idea of, like, there's nothing, like you say, nothing wrong with the Western notation, except probably calling it Western notation. That's probably very wrong, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it. But that fits that music and beyond. I mean, it's never like a line.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and it fits that.
And it fits 80% of jazz,
Exactly.
Like, it fits, and going to, like, a certain point, you can get there.
And if you look at, like, I was just looking at, there's some great examples of Thelonious Monk, notating his music. Herbie Hancock. I got to see if have you ever seen the Herbie Hancock? What is that? Eye of the Hurricane?
Yep.
Yeah. He wrote out all the chords exactly. Like, it can definitely be done. Wayne Shorter notates all his stuff. Like, you can use this system and then make some changes as you need to. And I think jazz musicians have done probably more than any musicians to be able to push the envelope in terms of, like, for studio playing and these different things, chord change, like, the changes were made to do it. But it's still, because of that improvisational element, I think it still comes down to hearing the music. It's just so important, so important to approach it like that. So I'm with you as far as the dogma, but I want folks to know that you don't have to throw out the other stuff.
No, for sure.
You can be a hockey player. Why would you want to do that? I don't know. And you can play basketball, and you can have fun with it,
That's funny. You used hockey and basketball.
Yeah. You know what, though? I got to say, man, I'm changing my thing up with the NHL. Well, first of all, of course I changed it up because we're the world champions still. And the pandemic might be even extending that a little bit. But no, I'm changing it up because the NHL is woke AF.
Oh, man. Yeah, man.
They're like way woker than the NFL.
So here we have some people chiming in on this. So Piano Man says, Ellis M., I assume you mean Marcellus, told me once he wished he'd worked on Chopin etudes more when he was young. It all transfers.
Yeah.
For sure, the technical side of European classical music is pretty legit awesome.
Yeah.
And, like, one of the great ways to learn any instrument, no doubt. I'm more talking about translating sounds between each other. You know what I mean? Teaching each other music.
And the kind of the way that you learn the repertoire in a way. It's like, as a classical musician. Now, this wasn't always like this. You talk about, Italian Renaissance music, and I'm no expert on this, but I remember learning a little bit about it at different periods, Germany, to different places, like classical music. There was a time when there was some periods where that music was learned in a way that was very similar to the way jazz musicians typically learn things by ear, although the big difference was there's no recordings then, but it was often learned by ear, and there was a lot, but that was also tied into there being a lot more improvisation in classical music, as it were. Is that an offensive term, classical music? Now that I'm hearing myself say it,
I don't know.
It's so classical.
It is.
It's so classy. It's so,
I always then I'll go to, like, orchestral, but what if it's not an orchestra?
Caucasianal? Is that's pretty much what they're saying.
Austin says, how long does transcribing take for you guys? Like 32 bars of a Bill Evans solo, for example. So 32 bars of a Bill Evans solo would probably take me quite a bit to do, but you might try reframing this, Austin, to think about it like, instead of how quickly can I get through this?
How many weeks instead of how many days is it going to take?
instead of thinking like, because I assume, Austin, couched in your question here is like, it takes me a long time, and how can I make it more efficient or faster? I think you should push back from that and think, how can I make this take longer? Like, see if you can really lean into the fact that this is going to take a while, and embrace it, and think, okay, can I spend more time on this 4 bars? Can I actually take another day and just go back through it and get more detail out of it? How long can I take to learn this solo? How deep can I go?
How low can you go?
Exactly.
How low can you go?
If you worry, especially with things like learning solos by ear, if you worry too much about efficiency, you're going to lose quality.
Yes.
Right? So think about, you know where I like to apply this? This is a mindfulness technique. When I vacuum my stairs. When I vacuum my stairs, which doesn't happen often, I'll be honest. We have, the carpet that like runs down the stairs.
It cascades
It
down.
cascades down. Came with the house. So it's very old at this point. And, dirt gets in the little nooks and crannies of the carpet when it's on the stairs. And I was vacuuming the other day, and I did the whole stairs in like 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
It was too fast. And I went and I walked back down the stairs, and they still looked like crap. And I was like, damn it. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to see if I can take I'm going to see how long can I take to do this? Can I really take like an hour and vacuum these stairs? Like, the longer the better, but doing that, I'm going to get into detail in here and embrace my time and really enjoy the moment that I'm vacuuming my stairs, right? Because I had all day. It was a Sunday.
Right.
And that was
Embrace
really
me, my sweet embraceable vacuum cleaner.
That's right. But that kind of attitude can be very helpful, not just in transcribing work, but practicing in general. How long can I spend on this idea?
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And I think, how long does it take to do 32 bars? I mean, that could be anything from, there's probably some solos right now, like some Miles Davis solos that the big thing that would change this for me is if I know the solo. Like, if it's something I've heard a lot, but I've never transcribed. So like, there's certain solos of Miles Davis and a lot of people that are relatively simple, as in not a huge amount of notes, that I could probably transcribe it almost instantly, like play along with it, just because I've heard it so much. And then there's other things that I've never heard that are like some kind of Brad Mehldau solo piano for 32 bars, just getting
the neck crank, the shoegaze.
Although his stuff is fairly logical in terms of like, that wouldn't be that hard, but it's not going to be that fast.
Well,
right?
That's another great example of something that if you tried to notate, right, with a notation system as you're learning it, it would slow you down so much to try to figure out where his rhythm would go, as opposed to just feeling it.
Right.
Which is, he's improvising and just feeling that rhythm. I think that's a big deal.
Yep. So that one varies. Let's get a couple more. I think we got.
This is awesome.
Oh, look, Antonio Collar Showbeam's on the. Oh no, that's Molly Evans saying Antonio's Collar Showbeam.
Oh, Amy's got a great question, actually.
All right.
Can you guys do a podcast giving a few case studies of specific playing levels, along with how that person would best plan a week's practice? Say, using the Open Studio Practice Journal, the Pujo, as we like to call it.
Pujo.
Like beginner,
Pujo.
intermediate. Yep. Yeah. So if you want specific examples of what you should practice, it's kind of the same across all levels, I would say, right? You want to hit some technique practice of your instrument, whatever that instrument is. You want to hit some kind of theory practice, right? Scales. You want to hit some rhythm practice, right? Like, and when I say theory and scales, I mean like
in the strict classical sense, right?
No, but you want to be able to, like, we talk about this all the time in the Daily Guided Practice session, Amy. Like, you're mapping out your regions, like what notes sound good over what chords, and that could whatever that means to you, But and then doing that in all keys, like that is a lifetime worth of work for beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and it takes maintenance. And then you want to work on some performance.
Yeah.
Playing a tune, arranging the tune, putting everything together, ending your practice session with that. If you structure your practice in that sort of 3-zone way, I think that's a great way, no matter what skill level you are, right? So to think of technique, theory, or what notes sound good, improvisation, whatever you want to say, rhythm, and then performance. So I guess that's 4. That could go a long way.
Yeah. And I think anytime we're looking at having a structure, it's as much about keeping us focused, be it 3 things, 4 things, taking them from areas, but like keeping us focused and keeping us from getting overwhelmed. So one thing that I've been starting to learn, it's interesting when you start to get questions like this and some similar ones. We've been getting so many, how do I keep from being overwhelmed? There's so much to practice.
Yeah.
And I was thinking back to different times when I felt like I'm the most productive in my practice routine for extended periods of times. I mean, like weeks on an end and things like that. And, I think really getting in touch with your personal flow for how you can best practice is important. But you have to put yourself into a position where you can possibly have a good flow state in order to do that. And that means really, it comes back to two things that I never thought I was that great at, but at times I have been. And when I was good at them, I made a lot of progress.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, the first is single tasking as opposed to multitasking.
Look at you.
Now we're so, and I'm adept at multitasking, but that's not when,
This whole
look at
podcast
this.
is an example.
I got this.
You're reading questions. You're trying to make eye contact with me. It's great. You're doing a great job, by the way.
Look at this. I'm switching cameras. So yeah, well, this is a good example. I can get through it, and it's interesting. But if I had somebody else switching the cameras here, I think what I'd be saying would probably be, well, it's also like, it depends on what you're doing. Like when we talk about practicing on your own, there are times when we are multitasking, and that's the thing, and that might be the thing of like where I was saying you're practicing. That even that is a little bit of multitasking, but you're doing less than we normally would, melodies and roots, getting into the groove and things. It's not truly practicing multitasking because you're trying to automate some things. You're trying to get some things built in so you can really concentrate, say, on your improvisation or your touch or your rhythm or whatever, and hope that the other things, and be able to rely on the other things just happening, because that's part of the flow state of improvising, is not having to think about what chord you're on, not having to think about where you are in the tune. So, but I think in terms of practicing, like you've got to, like, I've always progressed the most when I've concentrated on one thing. And that even goes into think about some of the times, Adam, we've been forced separately and occasionally even together to due to a deadline to get an arrangement or composition or a project done. Like there's nothing to make you focus than this is due at this time.
It's the only way it gets done.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still working on your dad's choral piece
because he didn't give you a deadline.
I kept saying, "Bill, give me a deadline."
I know. So it's like, so a lot of times we say, "Oh, I had a deadline, so I can work really well under pressure." What that really means for me and for a lot of people I observe is actually I work really well when I'm not multitasking.
Yeah.
Is what it really is.
Totally.
Because it's very easy to push everything aside. Our
just
families
focus.
and everything. The
You
kids
just
like,
focus.
"Daddy, I'm hungry." Yeah. Shut up! I'm trying to get this arrangement.
Well, this is
done.
where when practicing comes in, goals are huge. So Amy follows up when. Exactly. When would you actually commit to writing in the journal? Before the week begins, after each session, to say what you did? How about a little bit of everything? You want to write, how about you the first day of every month, right? You write down, what do I want to have accomplished by the end of the month? And that doesn't mean like there's results. That means like, what do I want to have had practice?
Yeah.
Right? What do I want to have touched on?
Yep.
What are my goals for this month? Write those down at the beginning of the month. Then write down in the beginning of the week, what do I want to have done this week to reach my monthly goals? And in the beginning of the day, what can I do today to help me reach my goals at the end of the week? This is something I learned from Sean Jones.
Yeah.
And he did it for
He did it for his life.
He
when
did it for
15
5
years old.
years in a 5-year chunk.
I know,
When he was like
he's
17.
I know.
He's like, and the goal was become the trumpet player in the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra.
Yeah, and
he
become
did it,
best friends with Wynton Marsalis. Remember?
yeah, and he had a
the-
5-year plan, Amy,
Yeah.
and he followed that structure.
And then it was like his next 5 years was like quit Jazz at Lincoln Center.
Yeah. No, but
start my own band.
He got there in 2 years.
I know.
By following this sort of structure of yearly, monthly, weekly, daily goals. I don't know if he did hourly, but I wouldn't put it past him because he's so motivated. But if you do that, and then Amy, after each session, a crucial part of us locking things in is tying the things that we learn to things we already know. So if you have a reflection after each session, just write down, and we talk about this again, and not to beat a dead horse, but in the guided practice session,
Well, this is Missouri, so we can
legally.
Once you get out of St. Louis County, you're fine to beat a dead horse.
I believe there is a right-wing political party called the Dead Horse Party. Anyway, anyway, so you could and you should reflect on what you practiced and what was like an aha moment, a light bulb moment. what was easy, what was hard for you,
Yes.
what do you want to do differently tomorrow?
Yeah.
Those reflections, tying it into things you already know. This voicing, actually I just realized that the G here is really the 11th of that D minor 7, and I have built in fourths up until a point, and then I have the 9 on top. Okay, I didn't realize that the 9 was on top. That's really, really cool.
Nerd.
Exactly, but that's how you got to nerd out sometimes.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I was just thinking, I did say 2 things, and I forgot the second. The first was not
I totally blew.
No, I'm trying to remember what was the second. Oh, yeah. So this is kind of things that I've picked up from when I would look back at very productive practice periods that I had. The other one was really cluing into the things that were kind of stressors that stretched me in my playing, be that technical or kind of ear-based, ear training or whatever. We have to stretch ourselves. We can't, if we only practice stuff that we should do one of those YouTube videos where it's like the 10 kinds of people that practice. And there's the one that only will practice stuff that they sound great on. It's like the most conservative, careful practicer where it's like they don't want to ever sound bad. They don't want to ever push themselves. They don't want to ever. So you're not going to develop. I mean, you kind of will. You'll do mostly sort of maintenance. But there are those things, and we all know them. It might be trying to learn 32 bars of a tough solo. It might be, a technical exercise that's just a lot of hand independence. It might be, if you're a trumpet player, some kind of, embouchure thing. But we have to stress ourselves. We have to test ourselves. We have to stretch ourselves musically and otherwise, intellectually, all these different things. And so, but you have to recognize when you do that, like you can never practice, like say your 4 areas. All 4 of those areas cannot be like the ultimate stretches because you will burn out.
Yep.
You will burn out.
Yep.
And, I had some bad examples in a way. A lot of the pianists, and when I was at Juilliard, we all had the floor with the good pianos that you go in the practice rooms, and you could hear everybody because there was these big grand pianos within teeny rooms. And there was so much, like, everybody was going to 11. It was all super overachievers and stuff in every area. So it took a lot of presence of mind to be like, you know what? I'm going to stretch myself in this area, but there's another area I'm going to be like, I mean, it's just like going for a run or going to play hockey or something. Like, you can't be at 11 all the time.
Really, you're
I'm
into
getting
hockey right now.
Hockey's woke, man. I'm all about the hockey, man.
Have you ever
They're
been
in a bubble?
Man, you got to come to a live blues game whenever they have live blues games.
Last blues game I was at was at the Checkerdome, so it's been a few years.
I gotta hook up. We'll make it happen.
You got to get into Canada first at this point to go
That's
to a
true.
blues game. But
That's true. This is cool. This is we have some good conversations going here.
It's funny when you don't see something. It's Oscar Peterson versus Joe Beam. How did that?
Let's not even get in there. Turtog and Piano Man reiterates him here. My problem with practice journaling is I can do it for a few days and it goes away, and that is gonna happen.
No, it does not have to happen. That's called discipline, my friend.
Well,
Turtog, come on, let's step it up.
But the real discipline is starting over, being able to start from the beginning again,
and not missing. Yeah, starting over. But don't you think too? If you miss a day, it happens. Don't miss another day.
That's right.
Don't miss 2 days in a row.
That's right. And if you miss 2 days, don't miss 3 days.
That's right.
No.
If you miss 40 days, give up.
But listen, with everything that we commit to, we're gonna miss, and we're gonna let it go. It's gonna fall off. Start again. Just start anew, and don't be afraid. Don't realize that again. There's no finish line. That you're in it for the long term. If you think that journaling is valuable, then it's valuable to start again. Just start again. Don't worry like you've lost progress or you're not, whatever.
Right.
Just
always looking forward.
Just beginner's mind. Here we go, starting again. That's all.
Yeah, and I think practice in general, is very much like you've got to, at all levels, you have to perfect the art of the quick look back and the long look forward. So what does that mean? That means that we have to reflect on today's practice at the end a little bit, and this week's for sure, and even more importantly, probably this quarter and this year, where you can really get some perspective.
Totally.
But that cannot be a big part of what, you only are reflecting enough to learn how to better optimize your practice going forwards, and that's really more about the things that worked well.
Oh yeah, if you spend any more than 30 seconds, that's too long.
Oh, I wasn't gonna be that dogmatic, but I hear you. I
no,
like
you
that.
just
30 seconds.
Because then if everything is special, then nothing is special, right?
Yeah.
Highlight the one thing that you couldn't get and the one thing that you really could get.
Yeah.
Colleen has a great tip here. Someone's saying like, "Oh, I'm inspired. I'm going to start a practice journal tomorrow," which is awesome, Lucas. That's so cool. Colleen says, "Lucas, keep it very handy, like right there in front of you on the piano." Right? What's my man say? Make it easy and make it obvious.
Yeah.
Right. So keep it.
Sorry.
Keep it. Allergies?
Allergies, not COVID. Allergies, not COVID. Sorry.
keep it obvious. Keep it right there in front of you, and then make it easy. Keep your pen there. Make sure that you don't have to go. Oh boy.
Sorry. Hey, this is we got the plexiglass. This is secondary.
Yeah.
We're modeling good behavior.
Oh, and okay. So it's 2 after. What do you want to do? Maybe 1 or 2 more?
Yeah, let's do 1 or 2 more because we're keeping this tight to an hour because we're doing the audio package. I do hope those of you that haven't had a chance to catch us on the podcast, we never really know because we don't get as much. I mean, I guess we do. We just don't. We don't look at the numbers as much over there, do we?
We don't really.
But we got a lot of people there, and the podcast is fun. I love podcasts. You love podcasts?
I love podcasts.
Nice.
Yeah.
How does this mic sound with this mask? We have to start, people get special masks for running, for cold, for warm.
It looks great.
It looks, man, I was made for masks, man. Everyone's been like, you look wonderful in a mask. I'm like, if most of my face is covered, I'm an attractive guy, I guess. Okay.
Raphael asks, one last question. How do you tackle non-functional harmony, non-traditional harmony? So we talked about that last week, actually, Raphael.
Yeah.
I encourage you to check out the podcast all last week. I think we did it actually a couple times in last week's podcast, the non-functional harmony. So we'll give it another week or so before we readdress it. But there are specific things you could actually practice for that.
All right, can I grab the last one here? Unless you see, or you can do another one after this if you want. But I like this. Have you ever lost interest? This is from A Practice. Have you ever lost interest in a solo?
I mean, I feel like I should go. I'm going to be that asshole that doesn't have a mask on.
There you go. Have you ever lost interest in a solo once you transcribed it? I feel like sometimes you lose something magical about it. Yeah, I think for me, what I've seen is I know exactly what you're talking about in terms of you just get a little bit sick of it and frustrated sometimes because you don't feel like you ever get to that point where you know it completely. But I think that give it a little bit of time. Like once you learn it, play it. Give it a few days where you really immerse yourself in it, but then come back to it. And usually, for me, the magic kind of comes back too. You get sick of something, even if it's good. I mean, it's like a great food, dish. If you eat it every day, it's a little bit. So you're gonna experience a solo more than ever while you're learning it in almost an unhealthy amount. Healthy for your playing, but not for your listening.
Man, you know what? I'm trying to think of the only time that's really ever happened was. You ever try to cheat? And you just like find the sheet music of the solo, right? You find someone else's transcription or the omnibook or something. Never done it.
No.
That's the only time it could lose a little magic for me.
That's interesting.
When I'm just like, oh, that's how it's done. Okay, and I didn't earn it. You just read it like a jerk.
But you're not necessarily sick of it then, or are you kind of disillusioned by it?
Yeah. So I guess to that point of the question of just like spending so much time, you're gonna get sick of it for sure, a little bit. But take some time away. Okay, I can't.
Really? Oh, I'm all good.
We got this big plexiglass, man.
I know, no. But now it's a little chilly out today. It's kind of feeling warm. So, this was cool, man. Thank you guys, everybody, for being here. We appreciate you guys very much.
Yeah,
and
sure.
we are here every Monday at 4 o'clock Eastern.
That's right.
Is that correct? That's
right.
New York City. That's Boston, Philly time, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Central Florida, where I was from. We're here just answering your questions. Thank you guys for all the thoughtful questions. That really means a lot to us because there's nothing like crappy questions,
Yeah, and these were nothing like crappy questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're happy not to have those. So
cool.
We are sponsored by Open Studio. Jazz lessons from jazz legends. Until tomorrow.
You'll hear it. Oh, man. That's slick.
are we still here?
I don't know.
I'm trapped behind a logo again.